Heyo, welcome back to a Galaxy Footy discussion video. The aim is I want to kind of discuss stuff that happens during the regular season, but I thought we'd kick off this series with a ladder prediction for 2025. Now, I've already seen my YouTube friends go ahead and do theirs a bit earlier, but I wanted to wait for the preseason to be finished. So now that the preseason is now finished and with the NRL about to start back up in under a week, I thought this would be the perfect time to go through my ladder prediction for 2025. Kicking off the bottom 9 and my wooden spoon contenders, it is the Parramatta Eels. So this is kind of interesting. I feel like they've lost a lot of strike power in like Reagan Campbell-Gillard and even their skipper in Clint Gutherson. Now, they still have Mitchell Moses and Junior Paulo remaining and some other players, as well as grabbing the Zach Lomax signing as well. But I don't feel like that's going to be enough to carry them. As well, Jason Riles is a first-time NRL coach, and sure, he does have the experience under Craig Bellamy, but I do predict them to win some games, but I feel like they're going to struggle overall. They've got a really tough start to the season, especially going up against Storm at Amy Park. At 16th, and probably a controversial choice in this, but I have the St. George Illawarra Dragons. Now, they did have a really strong preseason and a strong preseason challenge, but I felt like they played against two weaker squads. After kind of reflecting on the Roosters' performance against the Cowboys just now, I feel like this could be a little bit higher, but I feel like St. George were kind of advantaged. Like, I actually thought they were going to win the preseason challenge, but I felt like they had a bit of an easier time than the rest of the team. So that's why St. George Illawarra is going to go at 16th. Okay, so now this is a very controversial choice. At 15th, I have the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Now, Wayne Bennett's return is a massive positive for this team. However, losing Latrell Mitchell and Cameron Murray, Latrell for 2 months and Cameron Murray for an extended period of time, that is a big issue. And I feel like they're going to have some of their strike power gone for a little bit longer. So their rookies and their new signings do need time to adapt. And I do feel like they're going to take a bit to jive. And I also think they're going to really struggle in the start of the season. I do feel like they will try and maybe push forward in the back half of the season, but I don't actually expect them to go very much higher than the 15th spot. So at 14th, we have the Canberra Raiders, probably the most inexperienced squad, and they are still developing. They are possibly quite a surprising team that could be able to push for the 8th, as they did kind of last year, but they are really lacking that strong strike power. They did lose a lot of good players. Well, not a lot of good players, but they did lose some key players last year. So I feel like they're going to be losing. I feel like they're going to need to really learn in order to push for the 8th this year. But I definitely feel like they're going to get some good wins this year, the Canberra Raiders. So Canberra, 14th. 13th is the Newcastle Knights. Now, the Newcastle Knights actually just had probably the most amazing game against the Sydney Roosters. And honestly, the Sydney Roosters were quite shocking. But at the same time, the Knights have also struggled against a Parramatta side that was lacking Mitchell Moses, if I recall correctly. I feel like Newcastle are just over-relying on Kalen Ponga. And if Ponga is unavailable due to injury or rep duty, they will struggle significantly. I definitely feel like they've got some good depth there in like Fletcher Sharp and Dylan Lucas, I believe his name is. But I do think consistency will be a major issue for this team. Coming in at 12th, this is kind of another controversial choice, but Sydney Roosters, and after their preseason challenge, I actually think this might be a realistic choice, a realistic selection. They are missing key players like Sam Walker and Brandon Smith until the mid-season. They did lose Jared Hargreaves, Luke Keary, and they may get Joseph Manu back later this year, but they also lost Sawali as well. Chad Townsend is a good addition, but his pairing with Walker is uncertain, and I don't think they are going. So I don't think they will be a finals team this year, but they should be a very strong team in 2026. Coming in at 11th is the New Zealand Warriors. Now, James Fisher-Harris does add that leadership element to the Warriors that I feel like they were lacking. I do expect them to push for the 8, but I likely will have them fall short of the 8. Many people have actually predicted the Warriors to get on the bottom of the ladder, but I actually don't think the Warriors will be at the bottom of the ladder this year. I do think they'll be around the same, but also I do feel like their halves pairings are going to need to take a while to jive, but I definitely think if they get on the right foot, they could actually be a force to be reckoned with. Bulldogs fans, turn away because I've got you at 10th spot. Strong signings, but may struggle with second year syndrome. As you probably have known in the last couple of years with the Cowboys and Warriors in particular, they have had really, really good seasons and then followed up with a really shocking season. And I feel like the Bulldogs are going to do the same. Maybe not. Maybe if they actually do really well, maybe Bulldogs might be pushing for a top 4 spot. But the Warriors and Cowboys had very similar struggles in the past year. I do expect them to be a major force in 2026, but I feel like consistency is going to be a real issue in 2025. However, if they do get the consistency going and they're able to recreate what they had from last year, I definitely feel like the Bulldogs are going to be a force to be reckoned with as well. Just missing out on the top 8 is the North Queensland Cowboys. Now, they had some very concerning trial form against the Dolphins, which I know a lot of people have been saying that's their C team. But honestly, you don't really concede 50 points against a team in a preseason challenge. That's a bit of a shock. But they did have a really good game against the Melbourne Storm the week after. So maybe it does look pretty positive for the Cowboys and they are able to strike back. But I feel like their depth is going to be really tested this year. And I definitely feel like if they make finals, their depth is going to be their biggest challenge. But if they're able to get through that, I definitely feel like they could push for a prelim spot this year. So Cowboys at the 9, and that wraps up my bottom 9 teams. Top 8. Now, you'll probably notice some teams have actually been left out of the bottom 9 that are a bit controversial. We'll get to those guys in a moment. So, coming in at 8th is the Gold Coast Titans. Now, I feel like Reagan Campbell-Gillard's signing is definitely going to be a big signing, and he's definitely going to be helping Tino Fa'asuamaleaui. Can't pronounce that name, sorry. And with that, I definitely feel like their forward pack is going to be probably the scariest of the bunch. Now, I do feel like they're going to be really pushing for finals this year. I feel like they kind of have their halves pairing kind of solved almost. With Kieran Foran kind of ruled out, though, that kind of puts a little bit of a concern on this estimation. But I definitely feel like the Titans, once they get their halves partners like solid and they get their spine all sorted out, I feel like the Titans are definitely going to be pushing for that top 8 spot. So, I've got the Titans at 8th. Okay, you Tigers fans are going to love this one, but I've got the Tigers at 7th. Now, Jerome Luai, Jack Bird, and Jarrell Skelton are definitely key signings in this, and once Coruscant returns, he will be giving them a huge boost. Now, I know a lot of people have put the Tigers either in the bottom 3 or in the bottom 9, but I actually feel very hopeful for the Tigers this year, and I actually feel like they're going to be pushing for the 8 this time around. Now, don't be surprised if they get their typical 9th position, but honestly, I definitely think the Tigers are going to be a force to be reckoned with in 2025. And I think teams need to basically kind of have their finger on the Tigers because they will shock teams if they aren't put in control. So I've got the Tigers at 7th. Coming in at 6 is the Dolphins. Now, many predicted them to finish low and even getting the wooden spoon because of Wayne Bennett's leaving. However, I feel like the opposite is going to happen, and I feel like they are going to be real contenders for a final spot this year. So, I definitely feel like Christian Wolf is going to be a better chance of breaking the Wayne Bennett curse this year. And obviously, with Jacob Saifidi signing in the forward pack, they're not really going to miss Jesse Bromwich that much. And it is going to be weird to see the Saifidi brothers not playing in the same team. But I definitely think Jacob Saifidi signing is also a very big deal. And their forward pack for the Dolphins is definitely going to be a scary one. Coming in at 5th is, and just wrapping out the bottom of the top 8, is the Manly Sea Eagles. I feel like this team's going to kind of stay the same this year. They improved from last year, but not quite top 4 material as of right now. They could drop lower if injuries hit to any of their spine though. However, I still think even without Tommy Trbojevic, I feel like they could actually push for the top 8 as well. Now, not relying on Turbo as much as previous years, I definitely feel like Manly Ringer Seagulls are definitely going to be pushing for that 5th spot. And now to the top 4, and we're starting off controversial with this choice already, and I'm going 4th, the Penrith Panthers. Now, they have lost some really key players this year, like James Fisher-Harris, Jerome Luai, and honestly, and Saruva Taruva as well. But the Penrith Panthers are still a force to be reckoned with. However, I feel like they're going to get a bit wrong at the start of the season, to the point where I feel like it's going to kind of force them to go down into 4th spot. I do, however, think that any team in the top 4 can win the minor premiership, but I do think the 5 in a row is a definite possibility, but I don't think from a ladder perspective, I think they're going to kind of struggle this year. So that's why I put Penrith at 4th. Okay, definitely a bit of bias. Here, but I'm going to go 3rd for the Brisbane Broncos. Now, they have an easier early season draw, and their first real challenge is around round 8 and round 9 against the Bulldogs and the Penrith Panthers. Defense looked a lot better in the preseason this year as well, so I definitely feel like Madge has really given their defense a real tweak. And honestly, that's what the Broncos were lacking in 2024. Ben Hunt's signing as well adds a lot of depth, and I'm hoping that the Katoni Staggs and Selwyn Cobbo saga is sorted out before round 1, which the time this video comes out, Staggs probably might have signed that extension already. So Brisbane Broncos in 3rd. And in 2nd place, another controversial choice is the Cronulla Sharks. A complete team that should be pushing for a grand final spot, if I'm being completely honest. Now, Penrith did kind of steamroll them in last year's prelim grand final, but with the addition of Adam Fanua-Blake and also finally figuring out their halves combination, I definitely feel like the Sharks could be grand final contenders in 2025. If they don't make the top 2 though this year, I actually think there will be some serious concerns for the Cronulla Sharks going into 26. But I have a funny feeling they will reach the 2nd spot of 2025. So Cronulla Sharks 2nd. And if you haven't figured it out yet, my first and minor premiers for this year is going to be the Melbourne Storm. They are going to be seeking revenge after last year's grand final loss. And with the key signing of Stefano Utoikamanu from the West Tigers, I definitely think that strengthens the lot quite a big deal. Now, and I also would put my money, if I was a betting man, to put them on to actually win the premiership of 2025. And I definitely feel like they are going to get their revenge from 2025. I think the Melbourne Storm are at a point where Craig Bellamy is super elite, to the point where they will seek revenge and they will get what they deserve. So Melbourne Storm in the 1st spot for me. And that's going to wrap up my ladder prediction of 2025. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to leave a like on the video and comment down below your ladder prediction. And if you enjoy content like this, be sure to subscribe. I upload every week on the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Toodles!